What is up YouTube, and welcome back to another CZN video, and today I'll be showing you guys how I personally tackle Chaos Manifestation, or what I like to call it, Chaos Mode. So this area of content, there's going to be 5 different worlds or chaoses you can explore. They will unlock with levels, and this is where you actually start building your decks. There also is this exploration level for every single one, where you get rewards by just doing it. And by leveling it up, you'll see that you can unlock certain equipment or some cards that will unlock in that world specifically. Now, you do want to farm this a lot because it does drop you your cards and upgrades for your deck. And this is where you are primarily going to just be building your decks. Now, I will say that in the early game, this first area, Chaos Manifestation, this isn't where you farm your final decks. You will unlock Zero System at level 40. And this is where you farm the real late game decks because this just gives you better cards. But you can still farm some decks here that will be used for a very long time, so it's not really a waste of time, and it's a great way to learn how your characters work. So essentially how Chaos Mode works is that there is 2 difficulties. The first one is the normal one, which is just standard, you just go through. If you lose, you lose and stuff like that. It's pretty simple. But the Nightmare Mode, or I guess the hard mode, is going to unlock after one of your teammates goes through deep trauma and you help them recover. And then this mode is harder, right? It'll give you more harder stages. It'll accumulate stress faster, which is a resource that if you cap out on it on a character, they go crazy and you have to wake them up with cards. And this makes it so that it's higher risk and higher reward. You could see, for example, if I look at difficulty 4 here, the save data value is low for normal, but on the hard mode, it goes up to normal. So you can see the rewards get better as you do Nightmare Mode, and it's going to make it so that it is going to be just a better way to build your decks. However, like I said, the fights are harder, there's more gore and stuff like that. If you're not into it, you don't have to do it, but it is something you might want to try out just for fun. Now, I will say the way that this save data value works, no one really knows, but we can assume that it's kind of in a range. So normal isn't a set value. It's probably like, you know, like 1 to 10, normal 1 to normal 10, and then like low would be like low 1 to 10 as well. So we don't know what number value it is, but basically the save data value will affect the cards that you can get, but most importantly, the cards that you lose at the end of battle. So if you actually get your decks completed and finish the run, or even if you die early, you have a good chance to lose the cards in your save data. So you might look at your save data and think, where did my 1 card go, or my 2 cards? That's because the save data value does affect that, and we don't know how that works exactly until the devs tell us. But for now, just know that the lower the save data value, the more chance there is for you to lose some of your cards, and even your really good ones. So it can be really tilting. So essentially how Chaos Mode works is you're going to fight a lot of battles, you also have a lot of event stages. While fighting, you will get normal epiphanies to unlock cards, and you can also encounter some special epiphanies that can massively boost your card's power. For example here, if I show you one of my characters like Tressa, who I just recently did a run with where I got some okay cards, you're going to see like some of the cards here you don't really see in the base cards, right? The base cards are the one at the top, the 4 up here, the basic cards, and the epiphany cards are the ones that you unlock by just doing battles. Now, there are special epiphany cards that you'll get later on that will upgrade some of these cards even further, such as if I look at Unsheathed Dagger, which is like one of her signature abilities. If I press Epiphany, you can see you can get some of these, which will make it even more powerful, and you unlock these by doing certain events or doing battles. And if you get really lucky and find a special event, you can actually get one of the special epiphanies. So if I look at something like, maybe not in this deck, oh, here it is. So this Unsheathed Dagger, you can see it's a little bit special because it's not like the ones I showed you earlier, because it gives you morale, but also the cost is reduced from 1 to 0. So this is like an upgraded epiphany, and these are the ones you want to really be hunting for when you're making your late game decks. So you definitely want to make sure that you keep this in mind with the epiphanies. It's just a way to make your card stronger. Now, what you want to go for in terms of builds for your characters, I recommend not following a guide, honestly, and just playing through it a bit. Making mistakes is part of the game, and it's definitely something you want to do. Your early game decks are going to get replaced all eventually. Even I'd say up until like level 40 for sure, and then even after that probably until like level 45. Those decks that you built will eventually get replaced because as you unlock harder stages, you're just going to get, you know, way better decks. So eventually those decks get replaced. Your decks aren't even used in Chaos, which is where you farm it. So it doesn't really matter if you have quote unquote weak decks. it will only affect your simulation farming stages. So don't stress about it too much if you have subpar decks. I didn't really farm that many because I knew I'm going to replace it anyways. And all of these farming stages are going to be very, very easy to do with just mediocre decks. So just play through, make mistakes, learn the playstyle that you want to play for your main team, because certain characters have different playstyles. We'll use Tressa as an example again. You can use her as like a heavy DPS, or you can use her as an agony spammer, which is like a daughter. And if you use her as an agony spammer, she's not really going to do a ton of damage, but what she ends up doing is she's just supporting with your Hugo and just applying dots. So a lot of different ways to play characters. I've even seen people use Mika, who's like a good healer in AP battery, as like literally an AoE damage dealer with like whirlpool spam, which is pretty hilarious. So just do what you want, don't really worry about it too much. Just start playing and make mistakes on your own accord, because that's how you learn what type of decks you want to build. Now, what I will say is when you are deciding to actually go in and start building a character, what you really want to do is just focus on one character here. So when you go through, you're going to find that there are going to be, a lot of different epiphany options, and it can get very confusing. But what you're going to want to do is just focus on one character to build the strongest deck for that unit. And then for the other units, you don't want to make them super weak, because you still want to clear the stage so you don't lose. If you end up dying early, you will lose cards more often and lose, opportunities at more upgrades. So you still want to make your team generally strong, but you really want to focus on one character and also just, funnel into them the best epiphanies possible and all the options, because once you build that character for the run, you just save the data and you can repeat it for another character, and you can eventually get 3 god tier decks for your characters. So you definitely want to make sure you focus on one, because it just makes them really, really powerful. On top of that, when you're building your decks, you're also going to find that you get equipment. These equipments will drop in 3 rarities: blue, which is rare, you'll also get legendary ones, and then mythic ones, which are purple. Now the blue ones, the rare ones, you're not going to really use at all. Those are probably just going to be dead equipment for the most part, unless you're in the early game. But the mythic ones can be super, super OP. The legendary ones are pretty much the baseline ones you want on your characters to make them usable. You want all 3 slots to be at least legendary. And a lot of these are very good. For example, I have one where if a card gets exhausted, I do extra damage. But the mythic ones, these drop from very special rare events or from the last boss in harder stages. You can see some of these are insane. For example, this one I'm showing you, Mika's, that she has on, Fragment of the Empty Void. It's from one of the bosses, I believe. And this makes it so that you can discard 3 cards at the start of battle and then draw the same amount. So if I start the battle with crappy cards, I can kind of just restart my hand, which is absolutely broken, right? Another one that I have is Foggy Crystal Ball. So you can see that this is on my Tressa build, which is a DPS build, because I do have a ton of, damage epiphanies. And the way this actually works is I'm able to just buff the damage of my 0-cost cards. So if you think about Tressa, she has this dagger ability, which generates these shadow daggers, and she has her ego skill, which generates it, and she has shadow reload, which I got really lucky and got one that gives me a ton with the X value, because I can consume all my AP to make that many, and you're just going to do a ton of damage with her. So, this is basically what you want to think about when you're gearing your characters. In the beginning, just slap one on that you have that makes your character strong for that run so you can clear. But for that one character you want to build, that's where you want to start thinking, okay, I'm going to start optimizing for the build and have my other 2 characters just be on those clear gear builds, the gear that you just want to be able to clear the dungeon. So just keep that in mind with equipment. Some of them have really OP bonuses, like the mythic ones like I showed you. So just make sure that you are thinking about that. Now, in terms of when you're clearing the stages, the priority for me, and this is just for me, I don't want to say like you should always do this, but currently in the current patch, what I found the most effective for going for those like 50k plus decks consistently is always going for the question mark stages. These are event stages, and they will almost always give you just more value out of doing a battle, and you don't take any damage or take stress for the most part, except for some events. They can give you epiphanies, they can give you legendary gear, or even those special epiphanies that I showed you, which is why you really want to hunt those question mark stages. The regular battles don't really have a chance. I think there's like a very low chance after regular battles to go into like a boss fight where you can get like those special epiphanies, but it's a very low chance. Going into the question mark stages is a lot more efficient, and I just really recommend just hitting as many as you can. Now, in terms of the normals versus elites, I would say on the first floor, the normal stages are a lot easier, but they give worse loot. and on the second floor, the elite floors are easier. Why are the elite floors easier on the second floor? I don't really know, but you'll find that as you get closer to the final boss, the second boss, the normal stages just end up being harder than the final boss. It's a tuning issue for sure. I assume they'll fix it, but first floor, if you have to choose normal stages for ease, if you want better loot to, get prepared for the second floor, then you can do some elites. That's actually what I do. But if you're starting off and you're finding that you're struggling, do the normal stages. They're just easier, the red ones. And on the second floor, you want to start doing elites because they end up being easier. Now, there will be those orange stages. These will be like the rest floors. Some of them will have the shop, which will be indicated on the icon. These you want to fish for some good legendary equipment in the shop. And also you want to remove bad cards. If you remove cards, you can actually remove like curses, bad neutrals, and even attack cards for healers and supports, which will make their healing and their support cards appear more in your deck, which is very, very important, right? So you want to make sure you're utilizing the remove card feature. It's something that a lot of people don't do, but when you're building that perfect deck, it's extremely, extremely important that you do. Now, the final boss for each floor is going to have some mechanics. You definitely want to make sure you look at the fight. It'll be the difference between a hard fight and an easy one. Some of them will have like a mechanic where they can suck in your cards until you hit them a few times. Other ones will just spawn a ton of ads over and over and you have to kill them. So you want to make sure that you are kind of just clicking on the boss and reading what they do. Now, that's pretty much it for the guide though. Honestly, there's nothing else to it after that. I will get into some more in-depth strategies later on in a separate video. But what I want to say before I end the video is just have fun. There are no best decks. There's no best team comps. There's only like builds that you can find fun yourself personally. So what you want to do is just build your characters how you want, play the characters that you want, have fun. The late game content isn't that challenging anyways, and you could beat it with just okay decks. So just have fun while playing the game because it's a PvE single player game. So there's no real stress when playing it, except for your characters getting stressed while you're doing this chaos mode. So yeah, thank you for watching guys. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.